So, if we want to sell more, there are only two things we have to get right. Firstly, we have to get the big picture right, and that's doing things that customers love. And secondly, the thing I want to look at now is we need to get the small details right. Now, the wonderful thing about selling is there are only 3 small details you really have to nail. The bad part is you've got to be brilliant at all 3. It's not enough to be good at only 1 or 2 of them. But as long as you're brilliant at all 3, you will sell more than you do now. And I wanted to make it as easy as possible for you to remember what these 3 are. So I managed to get them beginning with the letters A, B, C. This sort of thing that probably doesn't matter to you, but I was really pleased when I came up with this. So let me run through the A, B, C with you. And what I'll do on this recording is I'll just give you an overview very quickly as to how the 3 fit together so you understand. And then on later recordings you'll see more detail about each of them. So the A, B, C is this. The A stands for afters. Now, what I mean by afters is why the customer is better off afterwards. Customers always want a better future. That's why they're coming to you. It doesn't matter what they're buying, they always want the afters of it. So when you buy something like a newspaper, it's very easy to think you wanted a newspaper. If there's one thing you don't want, it's a newspaper. What you want is, after reading it, you know the news, or the sport, or the gossip, or you've got something to do on the train, or you look intelligent to your friends. Whatever your after is, that's why you're buying a newspaper. And I have poor eyesight, I wear glasses, but do you know what? When I bought glasses, I didn't want them. But what I wanted is I wanted to see better and obviously look extremely trendy. You might have heard of the quote by Theodore Levitt, the business school professor. Nobody wants a quarter-inch drill, they want a quarter-inch hole. So people always want the afters of what you do, they don't want what you do. Which can be quite devastating actually, because if you're a website company, you probably presume people want websites. They don't. What they want is more profile, or more sales, or to look better than the competition, or easy revenue streams, whatever it might be. So the website is their mechanism that they're going to achieve the afters by. So if you like long words, your specialism, websites, is their mechanism. If you like short words, people don't care what you do, they care what you cause. So I don't care that you do websites, but I do care that you cause my sales to go up. So the A stands for afters. So the first step is we have to find the customer's desired future, where they want to be. So if they say, Andy, can you help me? My answer always is, and I'm quite pleased with this, I think it's such a strong selling point. If someone says, can you help my business? I always say, I have no idea. And the only response to that is, what do you mean? I say, well, I've no idea what you're looking to achieve. Let's have a chat about where you want to be in the future. And then if I can help you, I'll tell you. And if I can't, I'll tell you that too. But that's going to be much quicker than me telling you I was founded in this year and showing you the map of my offices. And they go, okay, that's quite a good answer. So the A stands for afters, and we'll talk about that on the next video about how you can be really good at that. The B stands for build certainty. So once you know what the afters are, you then need to build certainty in the customer's mind that they'll get the afters they want. So let's say you've spoken to somebody and they're desperate for their business to export into Belgium. That's the only after. They live night and day just for getting into Belgium. You then need to build your case that you can get them there. And you build your case doing 2 things. Think good and bad. You do good by talking about the proofs you can get them into Belgium. So case studies and testimonials and the process and your Belgian clients and stuff like that. So you build the case in the traditional way. But you also have to think of the negative. You have to overcome their objections. People have a feeling that objections, I think the word objection makes people feel that objections are objectionable. They're not. Like when I buy something, I have objections. I'm thinking that that's a bit expensive, or I'm not saying that's quite right for me, and your customers will have objections too. So when you build your case, not only do you have to paint the lovely picture about your case studies, you also have to overcome any concerns they've got. Now both of those are important, and we'll have a look at how to do those on the build certainty video. And so you think, hold on, well, what else could there be, Andy? A, find their afters, the future they want to get there. B, build certainty, prove I can get them there. What on earth is left? Well, the C stands for choice. And what I mean by choice is this. If I say to Maya, who's 5, my little daughter, do you want to go to bed? Now, even though you don't know Maya, have a guess what the answer is. Yeah, it's a resounding no. And the reason it's a no is this, because she don't want to go to bed, okay, but also I gave her a yes-no choice. I said, do you want to go to bed, yes or no? So when she says no, I can't really complain because that was one of the choices I gave her. Similarly, if you say to a company, all right, I've absolutely heard that you want to get into Belgium, we can help you do that. We've done it with people before, we've got all sorts of experiences about it. I've overcome a couple of objections, it's going to cost you £20,000, do you want to do it or not? Well, they could say not, because you gave them not as a choice. It's much more powerful to say, so you want to get into Belgium? Well, we can help you do it. We've done it before. This is our process. Let's overcome your objections. Okay, fine. And there are two ways we can get you there, really. One way we can do this. This is our big, expensive model. It's very, very powerful. When we've done it before, it's going to be worth millions of pounds to you, and it's going to cost you 20,000, whatever. Or if you want, because we know budgets are tight, we can take this away, take this away, take this away. We can still do great work for you, but that only costs 12. So there's two options there, the big £20,000 option or the £12,000 option. Which of those two do you think is most appropriate? And so what then happens, the customer is not thinking, do I buy? They're thinking, which do I buy? The biggest life-changing advice I can give you, if you're a parent, never say to your child, you want to go to bed. What you do is you say, it's time for your favourite story upstairs. Do you want to go upstairs on your own like a big girl, or do you want Daddy to carry you? And what she thinks is, oh, all this choice. But what you're really saying is, bed. So, there are three steps of making a sale. A, you find the customer's afters, where they want to be in the future. B, you build certainty that you can get them there. And then C, you offer them a choice as to whether they go with the expensive option or the cheaper option. You need all three steps. We're now going to have a look at how to master the first one, the A, finding their afters. So a quick reminder what I mean by afters. If you're a website company, people aren't interested in the website, but after they've got the website, they're extremely interested in the fact that they'll be able to sell more or look better than the competition and so on. So I'd like to do an exercise with you. If you could just get a pen and paper, if you've got one to hand, that's great. If not, it's a good exercise to do when you turn the video off. Write down the name of your company at the top of a piece of paper. And underneath that, I'd like you please to write down what you think the three best USPs, unique selling points, are of your business. So you just write the company name and underneath 3 bullet points, bang, 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 what are the 3 best selling points? Now, when I've done this with organisations before, the 3 best selling points tend to be things like, and have a look what you've written or have a think what you would have answered to that question, things like this: our brand, our reputation, our fantastic products, our cutting-edge customer service, our flexibility, we're innovative, we're creative, we're nice, we care, we're passionate, our global presence, what do people say? Big enough to cope, small enough to care. But what it really means is that, you know, we've got the resources, but we care about you. You know, that sort of stuff. So have a look at what you've written, or think about what you would write, and think, is it anything like that? Because if it is, let's just have a smug moment and think how good it is we're saying the same thing as everybody else. And now let's have a worried moment that we're saying the same thing as everybody else. Because if you're writing down exactly the same thing as other people, then here's a good exercise. You know how you've written your company name and 3 selling points? Cross out your company name and write the competitor's name. If they were watching this video, what would they have said? Because if they would have said the same thing as you, then there's a bit of a battle there. But not for me, the customer, because I've got 2 suppliers who I think are pretty much the same, you and the competition, and do you know who's going to get the business? The cheapest. And the bargain basement, as they say, is a very unpleasant place to trade. So you don't want to be saying the same things as everybody else. I have a bit of a problem with the word USP. In fact, I have 3 problems with the word USP, and it's the 3 words in it. Firstly, unique. What happens is, by being unique, people focus on themselves, how unique they are. So in my field, I'm the only person I know who has a blind mother. It's very unique. All right? My mum can't see I'm blind in the left eye, that's why I sort of have a look at you like this. So my eyesight's not very good, I've got a blind mum. That's very unique. And I sit there and I say it, and inside I know why that's a benefit to you. And you're thinking, I'm looking at my computer, listening to someone talk about his mum. So even though I think it's a benefit, it's not, it's a feature because I'm describing myself. So the uniqueness means you can tell you're talking about yourself if you use the word we or our brand, our products, our history, our tradition. We were founded in 1922. They're all features because they're describing yourself. I mean, put simply, benefits have the word you in it. You know, I can help you sell more, so on. So the word unique, I don't like that because it makes people focus on their own uniqueness. The word selling, I don't tend to like because it means people think about what do I say which will sell stuff rather than what does the customer want to hear so they'll buy stuff. If the world realised that you should think about a customer, they would never say we were founded in 1922. Certainly not first. I call you in because I think I can help you. I call you in. I'm so excited about this. I call you in because I think you can help my business. You're a wonderful website company. I need to get into Belgium. I'm so excited about this. And I say, can you help me? And you could tell me anything in the world. And the first thing you tell me is that you're old. Our problems with selling points. I don't believe anyone's ever thought, I'm wondering whether to buy from this company or not. Oh, there's a map of their offices. Now I will. And finally, with the USP, the word point, people think they need to be pointed, so therefore they're quite clipped, like our products, our services, we're fast, we're ace, we're brilliant. Right, so USP, I think all three words throw people off. Instead of USPs, we have to focus on afters. Why the customer is better off afterwards. So I said before about the fact I have a blind mum. Let me show you how you would turn it into an after. I keep saying an after that and after that and after that until it turns into a benefit to you. So I have a blind mum. Well, because of that, after that, I learned how to communicate. The person who taught me to communicate when I was a 2-year-old sitting on a knee can't see. So as I learned how to speak, I became very good at explaining things. So I could explain things to my mum in 2 sentences. It might take you 10, 20, 30, just because I'm used to speaking to blind people. Well, after becoming good at explaining things, that helped me become good at helping other people explain things. So I can help you become good at explaining things. And if you become good at explaining things, well, after that, when you're talking to a customer, very, very quickly, they can see the benefits that you can bring them. If you like, they're blind to your charms, but if you can explain things to blind people, all of a sudden you're saying things in 2 sentences that used to take 10, 20, 30, and even better, your competitors are still taking 10, 20, 30. So put bluntly, after that, you'll sell much more quickly, more pleasantly. Now that's an after. Alright? Now, much as I think you're interested in my mum, you're actually interested in quick, easy, pleasant sales. My mum is just the vehicle, if you like, which will help you achieve that. So, instead of doing USPs, could I ask you to do this? Another very, very powerful thing to do. Get a piece of paper, divide it into 4 quadrants. Okay, so literally cross like that. At the top of the left-hand side, head it up with business. And the top of the right-hand side, head it up with personal. Because when you're selling to a customer, you want to talk about the afters the business are going to get, but also the afters that they're going to get personally. So if I was talking to a sales director, I might have, I can help your company's sales go up, but personally, I can help you look good to your peers on the board, and I can also make sure you get paid the bonus that you missed out on last year. So afters can be both business and personal. Now, why do I suggest 4 quadrants? Because afters can also be what I call positive or negative reducing. So you can give more of a good thing, more sales, more commission, but also afters can be less of a bad thing and less costs of acquiring new customers, less risk of you losing must-win pitches, or it could be personal, like less, I don't know, frustration or isolation because you feel you're on your own. So the way the 4 quadrants work is this: you have business and personal, and then you have positive here, so you put more good things business there, more good personal things there, and then at the bottom you have less bad things there, like less risk, less cost, less time, and then for the individual you'd have less frustration, less isolation, less anxiety, whatever it is. It's a great exercise to do. I would strongly advise you to do it. It won't take long. If you have a really good friend as a customer, when you've done it, maybe show it to them and say, that's what I think our afters are. What do you think? It's a great, great excuse. Always ring your customers if you can, because if you don't ring them unless you want to sell them something, they probably think when they see your number on the dial, I'm about to be sold to. But if you ring them up and ask their advice about things, then people love things like that, and it helps you become better friends, and then they keep buying and all these happy things. Alright, so the afters, you're going to end up with this, say 3 or 4 things in each quadrant. So you might end up with 12, 16 different afters. Now, here's an interesting point. If you went to sell to my dad, which of those 16 afters that your company gives would he be most interested in? Well, you don't know, do you? So although you give all these 16, if you just told me all 16, or told my dad all 16, you think, why are you telling me all these things? So what we want is we want to talk about the afters that are most interesting to the customer. Now, I'm going to tell you because I know this. My dad only has two afters. Number one, he wants his staff to be happier. And number two, he wants to export into Belgium. That's it. They're the only two things my dad wants. All right? So Dad wants happier staff and to export into Belgium. Now, if you knew that, you absolutely knew they were the only two things that the customer wanted, how would you start your sales pitch? I would imagine with something like, "Hello Peter, it's great to see you today. When we spoke last week, you told us there are two things that are key here. Number one, that you want to get your staff happier. Number two, you need to export into Belgium." Well, we can help you achieve both those. And we just wanted to talk about how we could work together to make that happen. Now, do you honestly think my dad would look at you and say, "Well, that's all very well, but what year were you founded?" So what we have to do is we have to find the customer's afters. Now, unfortunately, you don't normally get the buyer's son saying, "By the way, it's Belgium." So you have to be able to find out which of the 16 afters to talk about. Well, the way you do that is you ask questions. And we all know you should ask questions. Good salespeople ask questions. If they ask less questions, they don't know what the customer wants, all that sort of stuff. What questions should you ask? Well, afters happen in the future, so you should ask about the future. So things like, what are you looking to achieve? Things like, how will you know you've achieved it? Things like, what would a great outcome be for you? So when I work with my lawyers, they're very good lawyers and therefore brilliant wordsmiths. So sometimes when I used to go into meetings, I would be worded to death and I would say, "Look, guys, stop talking law to me. Could you ask me an afters-focused question? It's taking too long." And they say, "Well, what would a good afters-focused question be?" Now, every time I go into my lawyers, they say, "Right, Andy, what's the end game?" And I tell them where I want to get to, and then they tell me the law to get me there, if you like. So, what's the end game? What do you want to achieve? What are your goals? What are your objectives? How will you know you've done it? What will you see people do? If you give your staff 3 things, what would it be? Are you happy with the sales? That's a present tense question. What would make it better? Well, that gets it into the future. Now, the key thing when you're asking questions is the customer speaks. I don't know about you, but I've literally never learned anything when I'm talking. So therefore, when I'm asking the customer questions, I'm always thinking, how can I find out about their future? So one of the things I said on another video this month, when someone says, "So Andy, do the sales pitch. Why should I buy from you? Why should I choose you?" My answer always is, "I don't know. I don't know. I need to find out the afters. And if I know the afters, well, it's going to be much more easy to see if I'm the right guy to help you or not." So there's a lot of stuff we've done in this session, but what we've basically said is this: USPs, bad. That means you talk about your own uniqueness. And so I know that you're the market-leading website company, but I don't actually know if you can help my business at all. So USPs, bad. Afters, good, because they talk about the enhanced future that I'm going to get. Step 1, do that 2x2 quadrant thing and think of all the afters you give and be aware what they could be, so you're looking for them. But when you're talking to a potential opportunity, don't talk about yourself at all until you've found the afters that they want. And the way you do that is you ask future-based questions. If you get this right, you're going to end up with a list of afters they're interested in. So imagine you've had a wonderful conversation with my dad and you found out what he wants. All you say at the end is, "So from my understanding, these are all the things you've said you want." Bang, 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 bang. Just so I'm clear, which of those is the number 1 priority? And the minute they tell you the number 1 priority, you begin to think, I'm going to make this sale. Because if my dad says my number 1 thing is I need to get into Belgium, then straight away, where are you going to write that on your proposal? Not after everything else, like everybody else does. People normally build up to the main points. What happens to a customer's concentration during reading your proposal? Yeah, they switch off. So you don't want to get interesting when they stop listening. So we put the afters at the beginning. So if you want to talk to my dad about getting into Belgium, the best proposal title is How We Can Get You Into Belgium Quickly. He's going to open that. I won a piece of work a couple of years ago with a pharmaceutical company. I asked why they chose me. And they said, well, not quite as desperate as that sounds. I said, "Thank you for choosing me. Looking forward to working. Obviously, I did something you like. What was it? And I'll make sure I do a lot of it." And they said, "To be honest, it was yours to lose from the proposal title. We had 3 proposals. Number 1 was called Our Proposal. Number 2 was called Our Proposal to X Pharmaceutical. But yours was How We Can Generate £50 million of revenue in 3 months. You were really going to have to mess it up after that." So the way you sell is simply this. You are aware of the afters that you give, and then you ask questions to find which of the 16 they're most interested in. Once you know they want number 3, 5 and 9, the only thing you need to do is the B and C of ABC. B is build your certainty, build your case, so they know they'll get those afters, and then C, offer them a choice as to how they do it. There are only 3 steps of selling: A, B, C. A, find the customer's afters, where they want to be in the future. And the previous video talks about how we can do that and find exactly where they want to be. It's extremely useful, it's extremely powerful, it's actually extremely essential. If you don't know the afters, how can you possibly know if you can help someone or not? And sometimes people say to me, yeah, but you see, the customer isn't letting me ask them questions, but I think I should go for it anyway because it's such an attractive opportunity for us. And the minute I hear that, I always tell them about something which I call the Kate Moss syndrome. You know, Kate Moss, the supermodel? Just because you think something's attractive doesn't mean you've got a chance. So unless you find out what the customer wants to achieve, there's no point going for it because it would be a wonderful, attractive client, because everyone's thinking the same thing. You have to get in front of them, find their afters, find where they want to be in the future, and you often spend that long doing it, and all you end up with is 3, 4, 5 sentences saying, this is where we want to be. Now, when you've got that, the B of ABCD stands for build certainty. We now need to build certainty to the customer they're going to get these afters they've requested. Now, I'm just going to use one after as an example throughout this, but of course you could apply what I'm saying here to any after. So I'm going to assume that you're talking to someone and they said, we want to get into Belgium. We don't work in Belgium, we need to export into Belgium, that's the only thing our company cares about. On our strategic drivers for the year, there's one, it's that, Belgium. So, I now need to build the case, build certainty. Now, there are 2 ways to do this. One of them is talk about proof points that proves you can get into Belgium. And secondly, we've got to get rid of their concerns, or the salesperson's word, objections, that you can deliver. We need both. If you only do the benefits, they can be thinking, yeah, but I'm concerned about. So it's not okay to ignore people's concerns. I have had to coach salespeople out of this because sometimes they go into a meeting and they think, oh God, I know they're worried about price, I hope price isn't mentioned, and then they come out and I say, was price mentioned? And they go, no, result! And do you know what always happens? I'm sorry, you were too expensive. So you've got to get rid of their objection. So let's have a look at the positive, happy, building certainty first, and then we'll move on to objections. So imagine, if you will, that you're talking to somebody who wants to get into Belgium. How could you prove to them you could get them into Belgium? Well, I guess the first thing you do is you would say when you've done it elsewhere. So if you've got people into Belgium, you would say do a mini case study. You may have a testimonial saying, thanks for getting us into Belgium. If you haven't got someone into Belgium, you might have got somebody into a new country. If you haven't got someone into a new country, maybe you got them into a new segment or a new sector or just something. You've got to be able to tell a story about when you've done it elsewhere. And a wonderful way to think about this is the very simple 4-word poem, facts tell, stories sell. Facts tell, stories sell. If you want to convince me you can get me into Belgium, tell me a story about when you've done it elsewhere. That sells. If you tell me facts about, firstly we'll do this, secondly we'll do this, it's not very interesting, and it doesn't always give you the comfort you think it does. Let me show you what I mean. I'm going to let you into a secret now. I'm going to tell you Andy Bounce's 5 steps of getting love on a Friday night. And I'll tell you, step 1 is you schmooze into a bar. Step 2 is you buy the lady a drink and move toward. And I'll tell you step 3, 4 and 5. And it's all going well and you absolutely understand my process and it's going perfectly. The bubbles only burst when you ask me this question. And Andy, have you ever actually had love on a Friday night? And I go, no, not really. So just because you understand my process, understand it, but it doesn't mean it works. So running through your 5-step process for getting someone into Belgium is all well and good, but I don't know if it's going to get me into Belgium. So the best way to prove is start by talking about stories, because that proves you can do it. So you say, you want to get into Belgium, we can help you do this. One of our customers has now got a market share of 15% in Belgium. They had 0% before they started working with us. So we've done it before. I just want to tell you very quickly what we did with them, because I think it will help you, and then run through how we might work together on it. So facts tell, stories sell. Case studies, testimonials, references. Client lists if they're relevant. I love those slides, don't you, with 7,000 company logos on. It just means that you work with a lot of people, doesn't mean you can get me into Belgium. But if you can just pre-select the clients, and of the 700 logos say, companies we've helped get into Belgium, and you choose the 4, That's more impactful than this sort of just, what's the phrase? Drinking from a hose pipe. You know when you put a hose pipe in someone's mouth and go and water comes out? Putting 700 logos is drinking from a hose pipe. They can't do anything with that. So we've got facts, tell, stories, sell, case studies, testimonials, references. Eventually, we also have to show what the process is going to be, because they're going to say, all right, I know you've helped other people, can you help me? And the way we do this is as follows. No, actually, let me tell you what not to do first, because this is what most people do. Most people call the slide, if they're using slides, our process, and then they have like the 10-step process. 1, we'll do this. 2, we'll do this. All sorts of problems with that. Mainly, it's tedious. But secondly, it just is not very compelling. So what I want to do is show you a very, very impactful way to show visually how this will work. So what you do is you get a title. Now, currently, it's called Our Process. I hate that title. That's what you call a feature, because it's describing it. So no one's thinking, tell me about your process. But if you add the benefit, Our Process for getting you into Belgium, well, all of a sudden, that is more compelling as a title. You always want people to look at titles and think, I want to hear this. You don't want people to look at titles and think, well, that looks boring. Let me say some titles that I find quite boring, which you'll probably hear every day. FYI. When I get an email called FYI, I don't think, someone sent me something for my information. I just put delete. I don't know about you, but if I wake up on a Friday morning, say, and at 9 o'clock that day I've got a conference call called Update, I don't think, it's today. Most titles aren't very interesting, so you want to make sure the title of your document and the title of your slides and the title of your chapters is cool. So we got here Our Process for Getting You into Belgium. What we then do is we do a timeline. We put the date here about when they're going to get into Belgium, and then we put today's date here. We put our logo here, which shows these are things we're going to do. So everything that goes above the line are the key things you can expect from us. And then underneath the line, we put the client logo. Then above the line, you talk about the key things you'll be doing in the next few months to make sure they get into Belgium. And you write down what the client's jobs are. Now let me just explain why this is so powerful. Remember, clients want to, or customers want to know what it's going to look like. I've seen many sales pitches where people go, okay, I love you, I get the point you're making, you understand me. I don't quite know what's going to happen on Monday though. I just can't visualise Monday, so explain Monday to me. So they're asking you what it's going to look like if they say yes. You don't want that. When you have a look at something like this, the customer sees a number of things. Firstly, there's the benefit. It's going to get me into Belgium. Secondly, we're both involved. Because that's important, because it's not that you're their, how can I put this? You're their strategic partner, you're not their bitch. You're supposed to be working together to achieve this thing. And then we have a look at our logo here, and we write down all the things we're doing. So the customer thinks, all right, I'm getting a lot for my money. And then underneath they say, I don't have to do very much to make this happen. In my experience, when you put a slide like that up, or if you don't do slides, you take visuals in with you, put something like that up and discuss it, and you have the conversation with the customer and say, does this all look right to you, or do you think we should move some things around? And all of a sudden the customer's saying, well, maybe if we just put that there, that would help. And you and the customer are working together to sketch out what the future's going to be. That's extremely compelling. So I said, to build certainty, what we have to do is we have to talk about all the things the customer needs to hear to know they'll get into Belgium. But we also have to get rid of their objections. So let me have a look at that now. Now, remember with objections, this is where they have a concern about something. There's nothing wrong with them having concerns. When you're a customer, you have concerns. That's fine. And there's only three things that can happen with their concerns. Either you mention them, which sounds a bit scary, or they mention them, or nobody mentions them. They're the only three things that happen. You say it, they say it, nobody says it. Of those, by far the worst is nobody mentions it, because it never gets mentioned, they still say concerned, it's gone. The next worst, weirdly, is they mention it. Because they won't mention it in the sort of lovely way that you would. They mention it in a, well, this sounds too expensive, or I don't see how this is going to work, or this doesn't feel right to me. And then all of a sudden you're on the defensive and you're trying to get background. So although it sounds strange, the best, or if you like, the least worst, is for you to proactively mention the objection. Now, the easiest way to find what they're concerned about, get this because this is genius advice, is to ask, what are you concerned about? So find out what they're concerned about. You say something like, so I feel very comfortable we can do this for you, but it doesn't matter what I think, it matters what you think. So is there anything from what we've discussed that you're concerned about? And people say, well, obviously the price, or have you done it before, or I don't know if it's a very important project and we haven't worked together before. Whatever, it doesn't matter. Find out what it is, and then say, okay, well, I don't think that's an issue. Let me have a think about how I can best satisfy that concern you have. Is that okay? The customer says fine. You then know the concern. And then all you need to do is, during your sales discussions with them, you have to preempt, so bring it up, and then get rid of the concern. And to do that, all you need is the sentence to bring it up, like, you told me the other day you were concerned about, or, do you mind if I just check something with you? Or, if I was you, I might be thinking, or, this is a great one, some of my most successful customers have told me, like you, they were concerned about. So you bring it up, that's what I call the trigger thing. It gets the conversation going about the objection. The idea of saying some of my most successful customers, that works well for two reasons. Firstly, successful, so we're sort of equating you with a successful person, flattering. But the other thing is they're customers, so we overcame it, because they're customers now. And then you have to get rid of the objection, and you prepare it in advance, and you practice it a lot, because you only get one chance to sort this out, I think. Let me give you an example. When I first worked in the legal sector, it was a wonderful sales discussion. It wasn't a presentation, it was a discussion. You know, sometimes it just goes well. It was one of those, it just went well. And I said to them, so I feel really comfortable about this, but it doesn't matter what I think, matters what you think. Is there anything you're concerned about? And they said, well, one concern we have is, you're new to the legal sector, so you haven't worked with lawyers before. So we're just a bit concerned, can you handle lawyers? Perfectly valid concern. I didn't think it was an issue. Doesn't matter what I think, because I'm not buying. They are, so they were concerned about it. Now, to be honest, I knew this was coming up, really, because I'd done a bit of ferreting around before. So I said, well, I don't think that's a concern. I don't think you need to worry about that. Do you mind if I just tell you why I don't think you do, and then we can have a discussion about it? Would that be okay? They said, sure, what do you want to say? I said, well, if it's important to you I've worked with other lawyers, another way to look at that is you're saying it's imperative, essential, if you like, that I already have helped your competition. Is that right? And they went, yes. And I said, if I'm brilliant at my job and I care about my customers, I will have done everything I can to make them brilliant. Is that fair? They went, yes. So I've got them as good as that, and every time they've gone for a pitch in the past, including when they've been up against you, I've been praying that they would win. Is that what you want? And they went, go on. And I said, so therefore, if I've made them as good as I can do, what I'm going to do with you is make them as good as I can make as I made them. So you're going to be on a par with them. I don't think that's what you want. I think you want to beat them. I think you want your lawyers to know things that they don't know. Well, I can tell your lawyers things that I know nobody else knows, because I've made it up. I've made my stuff up. It's all rooted in psychological and behavioural research, but I know my stuff works. Even better, no other law firms in the world know what I'm about to share with your guys. And even better than that, the companies your lawyers sell to are the same that my clients in other sectors sell to, so I know the buying process of the people you're selling to, so I can tell your lawyers, if you like, what to say to get ahead of the competition. So I don't think it's a problem I haven't worked with other lawyers. Would you want to talk about it? They went, no, it's fine. And then, of course, fortunately, I won the work, and afterwards I said, glad you chose me, thank you very much. Do you mind me just asking, why did you choose me? And you know what they said? Well, you've never worked with any other lawyers. Now, sometimes it doesn't all go as sweetly as that, but can you see what I did there? I asked about the objection because I didn't think it was an objectionable thing to have an objection. I asked what they were concerned about, they told me what they were concerned about, I used my pre-prepared response to get rid of it, and at the end they had total certainty I could get them there. So ABC. A, we find the afters. We ask questions about the future to find where they want to be. They want to get into Belgium. they want to make happier staff, they want to save money, whatever it might be. I then come back in the office and I think, how can I build certainty that I can achieve that? And certainty has the two elements of building a powerful case, but also removing objections. The only thing that could ruin it now, really, is if we didn't do the C, the choice at the end. So if we'd done all this wonderful work and they said, yes, absolutely, I can see that you could help me, Andy, and I say, great, it's £50,000, do you want it or not? And they go, well, we don't have £50,000. And then all of a sudden all the hard work is undone. So if you like soccer or football, a good analogy here is you've done all the work and finally after 25 minutes of running, you've engineered a goal-scoring opportunity. The striker has the ball at the feet, there is only the keeper to beat, and then they shoot wide. You've done all this hard work, you don't want to mess it up by doing a poor close. So on the next video I'll show you how to do the C, the choice, such that the question is not, do I buy? The question is, which do I buy? So, we now come to the third of the three steps of our ABC sales technique. A, afters. Where does the customer want to be afterwards? So we ask them, we find out about their desired future. B, we build certainty, we prove we can get them there, and that includes overcoming any concerns they may have. Finally, the C stands for choice. We want to give them a choice of yeses. Would you prefer to buy A or would you prefer to buy B? Is much better than would you prefer to buy A or nothing. Because whenever they have the choice of or nothing, they often can end up buying nothing. And I'd much rather they were thinking, which do I buy, rather than do I buy or nothing. So what we want to do here is have a look at how we can generate choice. Now, by choice, I don't mean something like, if you want, you can have me for 2 weeks or 3 weeks. I mean, that is an element of choice. We're looking for different value options, if you like. So, say, I mean, I live in Liverpool in England. Let's say I wanted to go to New York. Now, there's various options. One of them is I could fly. That's a good idea. And when I fly, I could go first class, business class, premium economy, whatever. Or if maybe I could go on a boat. Or a third option is I could swim. So I've got these different ways of getting to the same destination. One of them is very quick, it's very expensive, but it is quick. One of them is less expensive, takes a bit longer, and one of them, well, to be honest, although it's the cheap option, as often happens, the cheap option's often the most expensive one. As Red Adair once said, if you think it's expensive hiring a professional, try hiring an amateur. So what happens is, I'm going to end up at the same destination and I've got different routes to choose. That's what you want to give the customer. In effect, an expensive one, a medium one and a cheaper one. So, the other day someone asked me to speak at a conference. So they said, how much do you charge for doing a keynote? So I said, as I always say, I don't know. So which they said, well, what do you mean? And I said, well, let me just find out what afters you're looking to cause first. And once I understand the sense of the afters, I'll then tell you if I can help you or not, and if indeed the keynote is the best way that I can help you. So we had a bit of a chat about what they were looking to achieve, and we found out that they wanted more sales, and they wanted better sales leadership, and they wanted to make sure that the documents were more impactful, and they wanted to get more appointments in the diary. You're not going to achieve all that with a 1 hour keynote. I mean, I think I'm good, but I'm not that good at all, by a long way. So we talked about different options about ways that we could achieve that. So I said, look, one option, if you like, the swimming option, is I can do the keynote. And that'll definitely get you to New York. It'll definitely be worth doing. It's not, to be honest, going to achieve all those things, but it'll have a very big impact on the way they think, and you'll see them change within an hour. It's cool. Or I can speak to your sales managers before the keynote, after the keynote. I can coach them and coach them how to improve performance. Or we can have a look at some of your templates. If we can sort out your template proposals and your template documents and your template presentations, then what happens is not only do people hear my stuff, they're also coached better by the managers, and when they're creating sales material, they've got this template to copy rather than copying last month's slides, whether they worked or not. And so all of a sudden they now have 3 options, 3 ways to get to New York. All of them have their strengths and weaknesses. One of them is very expensive, but it will bring much better results. One of them is the cheaper option, and one of them is the swimming option, which actually is just the keynote that they asked for. And so I then say to the customer, there are 3 ways I can help you. These are the 3. Now, of course, there are others, but you don't want to give somebody 78 options. They wish they hadn't asked it. You just give them 2 or 3 options and say, which do you prefer? So the question is, which do you prefer, or which do you think is best? You don't want to say, do you like any of those 3 or not, because you're about to be a yes-no choice. So it's which of these 3 do you prefer? Now, if you're interested with that customer, they wanted everything, and they could find the budget for it, and that was okay. But sometimes people would say, no, I'll just have the keynote, that's fine, but it's good to know about the others. And then, of course, when you've done the keynote, you can say, are you happy with that? How else can I help you now? And all of a sudden, you may be getting the other things as well. But the key thing with sales, as I said on the very first video, is it has to be a win-win. So they keep buying and you keep trying. So when you give options, all the options you give have to be a win-win. So all the 3 options I gave were perfectly fair. The value for each was huge, and the price was much less than that. Yep, so the keynote would have brought that many sales or that much good business, and I was only charging them that much. Incidentally, by the way, when you talk about afters, it's much easier to charge more money. So let me ask you a question. If I was going to speak at your conference, how much money do you think I might be able to charge for an hour? So think about it. How much money do you think I might be able to charge for an hour? Obviously, it depends on the organisation and all those things, but as a general thing, how much do you think you might be able to wing for an hour? Now, if you speak to some people, they might think, well, I don't know, high-priced barrister might be a couple of $1,000s an hour. I don't know if you'd be as expensive as that. Well, $2,000, $3,000 an hour, that would be quite good. And you think, well, okay, that's good. Does anyone think you could get more than that? And as you start thinking, the number, you're going to have a glass ceiling where you think, well, he's not going to get above that. Now let's talk about the afters. And I had a very similar conversation with somebody only the other day. They asked me to do some work for them. We agreed a keynote was going to be the best vehicle, and I told them what the price was going to be. And they said, and I thought this was a great answer, they said, that's a lot for an hour. And I said, you're damn right it is. He said, but I thought you said that was the price for the hour. I said, no, I said that was the price. It's the price for the afters it's going to cause. You've got 500 salespeople here. Every single time you make a sale, you've just told me is $10,000 bottom line at least. So we've got 500 people who are all going to learn new things. If any of them make one sale, you've got 10,000 as a minimum. And assuming I do my job okay, it's going to be more than one. You could be 4, 5, 6, 10, 20, 30. I don't know how big this is going to go for you. But if you think of the value with it, in fact, I'll tell you what, that's what you're paying for. I'll give you my keynote for free. And they go, what? And so when you think about it, none of them are going to sell anything during my keynote because they're sat there listening to me. So you can have that for free. What you're paying for is the afters, the value that it brings. And as I'm saying this, I feel utterly sure that I'm worth it. You know, the L'Oreal advert, because I'm worth it. And if you feel you're worth it, you'll express it okay. It's like I don't work Fridays. I think it's okay not to work Fridays. I see my children. And if somebody says they want me to work Fridays, I just say, I don't work Fridays. I can do Thursday. I can bust a gut and do weekend for you. I can recommend you to someone else who's very good and go and have a chat with them, but I just don't do Fridays. And inside I know it's okay because I'm seeing the children, so I just say okay. So it's important that when you're giving choices, because of this win-win idea, all the options you give have got to be a win for you, they've got to feel alright to you, and it's got to be a win to the customer. So when I first introduced the choice on one of the other videos, I talked about persuading my child to go to bed. If I say to her, so what time do you want to go to bed, Maya? Would you like to go to bed at 7:30 tonight or midnight? I don't want to be thinking, please don't say midnight. I mean, why would you offer something to the customer you didn't want? That would be ridiculous. Yeah? But similarly, I don't want to say to her, do you want to go to bed at 4 o'clock or 4:05, because she doesn't want to do either of those. So the options have both got to be okay for both you and the customer. And I guess the final thing to say is, as you know from one of the previous videos, I tend to find that most email titles are quite boring. You know, like FYI, update, miscellaneous, all that sort of stuff. But I got a great email title the other day which said something like, your options doesn't work, your feedback please. And I thought, God, I've never heard this. Nobody has ever said options don't work. The worst that happens is the customer says, well, I have none of those, but thanks for offering. But it doesn't do any harm to offer options. I've never seen this feedback. So straight away I opened this email and he said, I said the following to my teenage son and it didn't work. How should I improve next time? And underneath he'd written in bold capital letters, tidy your bedroom or I'll smash your face in. And so it just goes to show that when you give somebody options, the word or isn't enough. It's got to be okay to you if they choose A or B. It's got to be okay to them if they choose A or B. But to repeat the thing we said before, when you do that, the question stops being do I buy and it starts being which do I buy.